The Madbean Current Lover is a flanger based on the Electro-Harmonix Electric Mistress, with some added features which include a possible effects loop, as well as an output gain stage not present on the original. Going to be playing through a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe recorded with a Red 5 RVD9 dynamic microphone straight in front of the speaker, combined with a couple of impulse responses. I'm going to be using a 1989 Fender USA Stratocaster Plus. The two knobs on the right handle the range or the depth of the effect, so how intense and deep it gets, and the rate. On the left, the feedback knob determines the amount of affected signal that's sent back into the input for another go-around. Setting this to high values will give you that very intense airplane flanging effect. There's also a switch to enable something they call the filter matrix over EHX. When enabled, this produces a rather ring-moddy, metallic-y tone centered around a frequency you can influence with the range and feedback controls. Now first of all, here's my clean tone. Going to start off by demonstrating the effect of the range knob. Here it is, completely turned down. Now with the range at about 9 o'clock. Now with the range set to noon. With the range at 3 o'clock. And finally, the range maxed out. Now we're going to check out the rate with the range consistently set to about 2. First, here it is completely turned down. Here it is at about 9 o'clock. Now with the rate at noon. Now at this point, the rate change between settings can be pretty dramatic, so we're going to be taking smaller steps now. Here it is at about 1:30. Three o'clock. With the rate at about 4:30. And finally, the rate maxed out. Now the same deal with the feedback knob, and as I turn it up, you'll start to hear that more intense, whooshy airplane effect creeping in. The feedback set to just a little over 9 o'clock. With the feedback at noon. The feedback set to about 1:30. 3 o'clock. 4:30. And with the feedback fully turned up. Now we're going to be flipping on the matrix switch, and once again we're going to check out the feedback knob, as it now controls the intensity of this effect. Here it is at about 9 o'clock. Now at noon. At 3 o'clock. And completely maxed out. Now we're going to check out the effect of the range knob, and I'll be going through it a little quicker so you can really gauge the difference in the frequencies that are being affected. And also a quick live demonstration of this effect. Now I don't think I'll be using this side as much as the other one, but still I had some fun playing around with it. Previous versions of the board allowed the use of the MN3207 chip. This one solely works with the MN3007s. Besides that, there's a couple of diodes you can change around, depending on availability, but these hardly seem like the biggest influence on the circuit. I opted to build mine without an effects loop, as I saw no use for it in my current setup. There's thorough wiring layouts for all the options in the documentation, though. The spacious board gave me no issues, and if I recall correctly, it actually functioned when I tested it the first time. Wild stuff. Anyways, after all the soldering, there's still some calibrating to do. There's 4 trim pots. One controlling the aforementioned output gain stage to make sure you can offset any potential change in level the circuit brings. The T1 trimmer limits the maximum amount of feedback you can get. The clock and bias trimmers control the voltage going to the clock and BBD chips respectively. All info on how to calibrate these and set this pedal up is comprehensively covered in the documentation in very clear language, allowing even a dummy like me to get a wonderful flange tone out of this beast.